Console Crusade podcast.
Let's count.
We got to count in.
This is the Console Crusade Countcast.
1, 2, 3.
This is gonna be fun.
Guys, it's a 2-point game in Denver. Miami hanging on for dear life. Nick, I know you're especially concerned about how this is going to go tonight.
Yeah, edge of my seat.
Is it 2? My stream must be behind. I'm showing 16-12.
Console Crusade podcast, we got a lot of news to talk about. It's just been, this is way more than I expected. When this Summer Games Fest,
E3's back, baby.
without any of the sexual assault allegations and recording people in the bathroom.
So far.
Everyone's just doing their own streams. There's IGN reacting and Kind of Funny reacting, and I was like, this is so much better than having to like see selfies of these people in a stinky convention hall with other people that I vaguely remember from the internet. So I didn't realize it was going to be so goddamn big. Summer Game Fest.
It was a lot smaller last year, yeah.
World premiere. Jeff Keighley, and I mean, it was just like, I was like, oh, we're doing this now twice a year. Okay, I can get behind it. So anyway, EJ Olson, Nick Durheim,
Shalom.
Chris Gillyfor.
Ladle.
I feel like every time we do one of these recaps, it's like, do we want to just recap everything? Or I took a list of notes of like what I thought was interesting to me or that I had thoughts about while watching. It is not comprehensive, but it is long.
I never want to recap everything. That's just,
Me too, buddy.
I like
Me
the
too.
the big stuff with some little, spice of that's cool. That could pan out down the line, or don't know what they were thinking there at Fable.
I can't wait to talk about Fable because I feel like I'm in the minority when it comes to my thoughts on that, and I think you and I might agree on it, so that'll be nice. But yeah, let's just freaking go in order here. We started off on, God, what day was that? Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday last week.
With the Summer Game Fest. Like I said, Jeff Keighley freaking running the show. It was like the Game Awards. They had a whole live audience, and the first thing I have on my list here is Prince of Persia, which I have thoughts about, having never played the game. But Nick, have you ever played a Prince of Persia game?
No, but this looks like they saw Metroid Dread and were like, hey, we should do one of those with our IP.
Exactly.
Hell yeah, go for it.
I will buy this game.
Yeah, this is the real deal. People are like super sold on it. It seems really tight.
This is going to be a thread through like a lot of these games, is the quote unquote controversies online. People on Twitter and Reddit and whatever.
They're not real.
They're not real, but they're like blowing up the live chats on YouTube and Twitch, like in real time as these things are happening. So Prince of Persia gets announced. It's got sort of that, when I first saw it, I thought like Saturday morning cartoon. Like
It looks like a Fortnite character skin.
it does. The action sequences looked awesome from the gameplay. This is from the team that did the Rayman games, which are very well regarded.
Oh, I loved Legends and Origins. They were strong games.
There's no reason to think that they can't do an action platformer with swords. You know what I mean? So
The gameplay reveal, I don't know, I haven't checked their channel to see if they've like uploaded a version that isn't cutting back and forth between the guy talking and the actual
Right.
like gameplay. That was a little bit like, come on, show me the thing that's happening. It's like, looks cool. But when they started showing the time reversal mechanic and stuff like that, it seems like, yeah, there's like a really interesting possibility space with the moves that you can get. And the way they're selling it as like this is like a Metroidvania, like through and through. This is what we want people to know about this game, is like, we played Symphony of the Night, and yes, we're doing that. So seeing the abilities, like the way you upgrade your character, not in like the stats, but in the different traversal mechanics, is what makes Metroidvania so interesting to me. So seeing that time thing in particular was like, that seems really cool.
about the controversy, people were very quick to notice that they were not playing as the Prince of Persia that they knew from some of the more classic games.
The more classic, like the 80s one?
From like 88 or whatever that fuck it was.
Right.
Jordan Mechner, the creator of this franchise, tweets out, "Hi, I understand there's been some controversy about what a Prince of Persia hero should look like. I think it's time for me to provide an official style sheet that everyone can refer to. Please see attached. I hope this helps settle things once and for all." And he just tweets a picture of every Prince of Persia protagonist, including Jake Gyllenhaal in the fucking movie. And it's just basically a giant fuck you to everybody there's purple hair on here. There's blue turbans. There's Jake Gyllenhaal. Come on. People are mad because it's a brown dude. Fucking bullshit.
People just start showing their whole ass on the internet in 4K, but looking at that list of like all the protagonists, I didn't realize there was even that many different iterations. Like I knew there was the old, like the super old, like PC version and like a Amstrad and ZX Spectrum, all the crap that we hear old people talk about on the internet, but we've never even seen a picture of without like looking for it intentionally. But yeah, there's been a lot of iterations of this character over time. And just because you grew up with a certain look during the PS2, when Godsmack starts playing, does not mean that they can't like change the character occasionally. I liked the look actually of the Wii version from Prince of Persia that they came out with after the game series had been a little bit dormant for a while because they made a movie and they're like, we need to make it look more cartoonish because we need to put this on the Wii. Right. So I think that's the one that's got like all the red. It's really colorful, really cool, like stylized, cell shaded, almost kind of look. But the new game looks cool. The new character looks tight, except for like, feel how you feel about the very Fortnite-y look. I mean, that is a pervasive look. That is the look that people can just copy whole cloth and put any character into, which is whatever.
And the fact of the matter is, like, all of these kids are playing Fortnite. Everyone is playing Fortnite. Like, this is never going away until Fortnite goes away, because that is a market that they want to tap into, is getting kids who like, that game looks like Fortnite. I'm not old enough to know better, as we've talked about, like, you know, being young and stupid and playing Shrek Castle in the Castle for 20 hours one weekend because it's the only thing you have, right? It's smart. I don't love it.
Let's open this can of worms then, because this is another, between the brown people and women pissing off all of the incels on the internet and the graphics not good conversation. That's pretty much all the fucking timelines have been in the last 4 days. So let's crack this open before we continue with these games. The conversation about graphics, people saw this and they immediately said, oh, this looks bad. It doesn't look bad. It looks very stylized. It's not, yeah, like you said, it looks like Fortnite, quote unquote. It looks like any like fun cartoon. And I think for some franchises that works really well. I think for other franchises, cough, Mega Man cough, I don't like that 3D look. Like, it just doesn't fucking work for me, you know? But like, this looks like a fun, colorful comic book, manga sort of come to life kind of thing. It's a children's game. There's no reason. I mean, look at Nintendo. Obviously, every fucking game they put out is a hyper stylized. There's nothing realistic about what Nintendo does. No one's complaining that Nintendo games look, you know, I mean, people complain when they look bad from a technical standpoint. Like, Zelda is beautifully stylized. People complaining about what this game looks like, it's incredibly stupid. And looking at games like, we'll talk about Starfield later, like, this push to like hyper realism, I think is fine if you can create a style that is distinct. But all of these games, they're all built in the same fucking engine or an offshoot of the same fucking engine, and they all end up looking the same. And the hyper realism looks so goofy. Like, look at Fable. You know, like, I just thought it looked so goofy how the face. I mean, like, I think back to like Skyrim. That was a game that was not trying to be hyper realistic. You can picture what a Skyrim character should look like. There's no uncanny valley the way we're seeing now, and so I'm all for. I mean, there's a reason a game like Wind Waker has stuck with me all these years. You know, like being the one Zelda game that isn't trying to whatever realistic quote unquote fucking looks like in any given era. They were like, oh, we're just gonna do something completely different, fun, stylized, evergreen. I was very tired of the conversation by the end of the weekend here.
I think it would be more successful if it wasn't so safe. It feels like they wanted to do cartoony and stylized, but they have to fit that into something that's marketable, which the only thing that's marketable is the Fortnite sort of design language and the proportions and the whole sort of essence of it. You can look at it and you see blatantly like that's what the inspiration is, which is unfortunate because they could take bigger leaps and they could be more interesting with it, which I would be a fan of, but I understand that that is not their intent. They want to be marketable still. They're a company who's trying to sell a game. And I would say this isn't a game. I don't think this is a game for kids. This is a game for dads with kids. And I think that's a little bit different because you have to appeal to, like, this game isn't going to come off as hyper violent, even though they had like a bunch of cool action scenes. This dude's like slitting the Achilles tendons of giant like orcs and shit. And it's like violent, but it's like approachably violent. The kind of violence that you can show to a kid and they're like, ooh, that's scary. That's
approachably
like,
violent. That's good.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, you watch Hercules and it's not violent, but it is violent. Like, this dude's fighting monsters and shit. But I think that's sort of the essence that it's going to. No one's going to watch this trailer and be like, ooh, Dad, can I get that? Because they'd rather, you know, play the free game that's a sure thing and they can play with their friends. But it's sort of like the approachability factor of it. So my only input to sum it all up is like, be more interesting. This is just kind of safe.
Yeah, and that's what make Wind Waker such a gigantic success is they took a massive risk that initially got absolutely derided from every corner and that has only gotten better with age in ways that other 3D Zeldas have not been able to. It is a timeless fucking aesthetic, and it's only because they went so big that they could do something that would be so memorable. So I feel that. It's like everything's a Fortnite clone, nothing's a Fortnite clone, but if you're going to hew that close to it, deservedly, people are going to go like, really? Like, okay, yeah.
Especially coming from the team that brought us the Rayman games. Like, the UB Arts games are beautiful, and like the 2D sort of, like they were actually 2D animated. Like this is the, 2D plane, but 3D character models. So that's a little bit easier to develop. Obviously, it's not as expensive to doing 2D stuff is really hard to do. So, but if this was like a high budget Guacamelee, I think that would be much more striking and much more interesting and appealing to me. But I also like know that I'm in the minority there.
See, that's a much more nuanced take.
Took me a lot more than 140 characters.
Graphics bad or, graphics childish is just way to contribute to the conversation, like just fuck off.
And already like a million times better than what they showed of the Sands of Time remake a couple years back, which they immediately had to shit can and start from scratch because it was so atrocious.
Yeah.
Just to look at, like immediately you see a single frame of that game, you're like, that's not good.
That's
knee jerk.
Right. Let's move to Mortal Kombat 1. We got a little bit of, I think, a date reveal coming out in September. It's a reboot of the franchise. Narratively, what does that mean?
I don't play these games, but I know people who do. Listen to podcasts of people who do. So I know that in Mortal Kombat, what was it, 11 was the last one, had to do with fighting a time god. And from the ending of that, there was like multiple endings based on who you played as in the campaign, because obviously Mortal Kombat. But each time you would beat the time god, it would be like, oh, we are changing the past to what you want the reality to be like. So that was like that was the conceit of it. So then their canon sequel of it is, this is one of the characters, their reversion of history and like changing the past and them becoming an elder god kind of character. And what that means as far as like, oh, so we have Scorpion and Sub-Zero, these characters that we all know, and we all know that they're from like the same clan. They're like ninjas, Mortal Kombat, obviously. But like this time, because of the time shenanigans, they're homies instead of being mortal enemies. And you get different sort of change-ups from that. So it's like a continuation, but a reboot at the same time. So that's kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah, Liu Kang in, I can't remember if it was a DLC ending or just like his ending, that he steals the Time God's powers from, what the fuck's his name?
Chronica.
Shao Kahn.
The dank nug.
No, the main like Shao Kahn, something Kahn, I don't know. From the big bad. He steals it from him. And so yeah, Liu Kang has become the god of fire and is soft rebooting the universe as he sees it. And I think Raiden is one of the like young fighters he's recruiting in lieu of Liu Kang, because he's obviously like the Raiden figure in this timeline. God, that game looks so pretty. Like, I love the art direction for these characters. Like, they've streamlined things that like simple, clean lines that are telling like clear stories about these people. The fatalities look absolutely like gut turning, which is what you gotta want from a Mortal Kombat game.
How do they keep coming up with things that get increasingly more violent and ridiculous? Like, I thought MKX was like the peak. I don't know. I'm a like casual Mortal Kombat fan. I've played plenty of them. Brendan and I got really into MKX for a few months there. Hopefully, maybe in the next week or two, hopefully we'll be able to have our buddy Max on, who is a massive Street Fighter fan and a massive fighting game fan in general. He talked my head off for an hour the other day about like how amazing Street Fighter 6 was and all these different changes and all these different things. And for me, it's like, I played Street Fighter. I was really into Marvel vs. Capcom back in the day. I don't know enough to like explain the difference. Like, I don't understand the systems deeply enough to differentiate necessarily. It's like, okay, combos are easy to pull off in this one game. The time, you have more time in something Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, so you have to be less precise. Something like Tekken, where like it's easy to understand for a newbie because like left hand is on triangle and right hand is on circle or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like very clearly, it's very easy to figure out like this button punch, this button kick. I haven't gone full dum-dum on fighting games before, but it looks good. They're introducing the cameo system, which is just kind of Marvel vs. Capcom or like Dragon Ball Fighters. Oh, we didn't have time to fully build this character out, but you can choose them and they'll come in and fucking add to your combo.
In the Switch version, they have Waluigi as a cameo.
Yeah.
Stop.
Cameo with a K, mind you.
That's not real. Is that real?
No, that's not real. But it'd be funny, right?
It'd be fucking amazing.
Wow. Beats them to death with a golf club or a tennis racket or...
So here's my question then. And this is the eternal pessimist in me, but we saw something like Smash Bros. Ultimate, and we make a lot of Smash Ultimate jokes, everybody's here. And they did do DLC where they're adding new characters, but Smash Ultimate launched with everything, every character this franchise has had, they're here, and it is awesome. And then we're just going to keep giving you more and more and more. Why aren't we seeing fighting games do this? Is it strictly so we can sell them back to you? Is it a time thing? I mean, Street Fighter V came out 8 years ago or something, right? 15 was that? Why are we getting these games with 10 or 12 characters and not fucking 40? I know balancing a fighting game is very complicated, but they've been doing it for 20 years. I don't know.
No, that's just it, is that Nintendo does not believe that Smash Bros is a fighting game, and that is we all know that they
That's
have
crazy.
historically outright not only like resisted the label, but have outright been hostile towards like aspects of the Smash circuit. They've never ponied up prize winnings.
But Sakurai is still making a fighting game and balancing a very intricate fighting game.
But he's not, and I don't think that's ever been the philosophy. They're like, this is a party brawler. It is not a fighting game because like something like Mortal Kombat 1, right? If they had 100 fighters or like whatever ridiculous number Smash Ultimate got up to, 60, 70, like how many people are actually in that fucking game?
It's like 80 plus and then like different echoes and stuff like that.
Can you imagine a Mortal Kombat game that tries to balance 80 fighters? Like the development team will die. Like they literally will just like rot in their seats and have to be carried out. There's not time. There's just not time. And I wish they would give us like Smash 1. I thought that's what they were going to do with Smash for Switch until they announced the title. When it was just Smash Bros. Is coming, I was like, pare the fucking roster down, give us like 25 fighters again, balance the game. That's what I would like to see from the next outing as a total aside. But it's not their philosophy. Like it's a party game. It's not a fighting game. It is a fighting game, but
I don't think a fighting game benefits from a maximalist approach of more characters equal more better. Just make a fun game and give us some like cool options. And when a game series gets to above 10, you have a long list of history and people to pull from, but not all of that is worth going back to. And I feel like NetherRealm in particular has been very good in their choices in the characters they go back to. You don't really see a lot of discussions online of like, man, I wish they hadn't put this character in. It's always people saying, yeah, I wish they did put this character in, but that's different than like complaining about who they did put in. So it's good to leave the fan base like hopeful and like wanting more, but you don't need 100 characters in the game. I mean, Smash Ultimate didn't need everyone is here. It was just amazing and they pulled it off and it's like crazy, but they didn't need to do that. I think the next Smash game, if it has 40 characters, has 20 characters. That's like fine. I would love that. But I don't even know what's the full roster on. Have they shown the full roster? I know there's been like leaks about some of the guest characters that there's going to be in the game, but not necessarily who's been confirmed.
No,
fully.
I think there's like 10 confirmed characters, but it's not comprehensive.
They could do a fatality video for every weekend until this game comes out, and they would get like millions of views. Like this game's gonna sell itself. It's gonna be crazy. Mortal Kombat 11 sold bonkers numbers.
What does this mean for Tekken? No shot that comes out in 2023, right?
But what if it does? What if we got the
What a year for
what if we
fighting
got the
games. You get
Trinity?
Tekken, Mortal Kombat,
And
and Street Fighter.
That would be. When's the last time that happened? I wonder.
Ever like the arcades
In 96,
1997.
97.
All right, 96, 97. I'll say 01. I feel like there was some weird like Tekken Tag tournament shit going on at that time.
Yeah, PS2 had a lot of weird. Well, what is a Mortal Kombat game? Because there's been like a weird list of here's the 3D one where they started using knives and stuff. Or Mortal Kart Bat. What was the one that had the kart racing?
As far as, the Smash conversation, as we get derailed here.
Well, we have to talk about it in terms that we understand.
Right.
With the baby food for us, while the adults sit at the table eating Street Fighter steak and Mortal Kombat beer and wine.
In my eyes, and this is maybe ignorant of me, but like Smash Bros has been a very linear progression from the N64 to the Nintendo Switch. They have continuously built upon what has come before. They've balanced things, they've changed things to differentiate characters. Obviously, game modes come and go. But as far as the core experience, like, okay, things get a little quicker, things get a little slower. They introduce tripping, and they're playing with the formula to try and perfect it, but it has been a logical evolution every step of the way. And so to me, it's like, yeah, all the characters are here because they're not reinventing the wheel. They're taking everything they did on the last game that took how many years to make, and they're just tweaking things. And don't talk to me about, it's not a fighting game. Sakurai nerfing my Meta Knight, my Bayonetta, and, there's clearly a level of care where they want that game to be balanced and fun for anybody of any level, and doing that especially because of the variability and like how approachable it is for newcomers. And it's a very daunting task, probably more daunting than a Street Fighter game, even though Street Fighter has a much more dedicated competitive scene. I don't know, that's my thing, is like, how different can Street Fighter 6 be from 5? Why isn't the blueprint there for them to build on? And maybe this is a question for Max if we talk to him next week.
All right, I have the answer.
Ooh.
Okay. Chris with the deep research. Had to pause the stream to look up some dates on Wikipedia.
I did. I did what? Y'all were riffing. It was good. It was all covered. It was, in fact, 1997. The last, what I'm considering a proper release, in which we got Tekken 3, Mortal Kombat 4, and Street Fighter 3 in the same calendar year.
Yeah, it had to be early on. Those games are coming out much more frequently.
Yeah, the arcade times especially.
Yeah, massive gaps in Street Fighter and Tekken after
especially.
The 2000s. Yeah. And I was like, no, Mortal Kombat Advance does not count as a main release, as much as I would love for it to be later.
I would have counted like the 3 different Street Fighter 3s as a like main line. I think second Impact and Third Strike are pretty big advances to those games.
Yeah,
Or
totally.
the Alpha games as well. Like those are Street Fighter games. They just take place in a different timeline.
Oh, yeah.
Like further back. It's weird, different characters.
And nobody talks about Street Fighter 2. They talk about Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Like, that is what
or
made...
Super Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, that's what made that series what it is.
Let's move on to Dead by Daylight.
No, I was at work. I did not watch the Summer Game Fest stuff at all. I caught the headlines as it were.
I see.
Yeah, same.
So Jeff Keighley is just yucking it up on stage, being some combination of awkward and charming in a very creepy way. You know Jeff Keighley. He brings up Nick Cage. People give a little cheer. And then he says, who better to ask? And people think a developer is going to come out on stage. And he literally introduced Nicolas fucking Cage at Summer Game Fest, who comes out. And bro, I got to tell you, that man was selling this game. Did you guys watch the clip of this, Nick? Did you see this?
No, but he's a charming ass dude. I mean,
a museum of horror. I was like, yeah, it is. You go, Nick Cage.
Did you see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
No, I
would love to, because that's like 2 of the most likable people on the planet right now, just hanging out with each other for a couple hours.
Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. And it basically is like a buddy comedy with those two, with many other elements. But the whole conceit of that film, if you're not familiar, listeners, if you're not familiar, is Nick Cage plays himself. More specifically, he plays like the version of himself that people think Nick Cage is commonly. So he's playing like the idea of himself, but he also plays like different aspects of himself at different point. Like he has this internal voice called Nicky that's like the young, hotshot, can't miss Nick Cage in his heyday, who is like still psychologically like fucking him up and convincing him he's still this guy. At that point, I was just like, he is just willing to do whatever and to just really go like balls to the wall with it. And that movie is so goddamn funny. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how fucking funny that movie is.
He's playing himself, supposedly, in this Dead by Daylight. Is it an expansion? I think it's an expansion.
That's DLC.
And he got up there and he talked about his love for horror and dropped some deep horror lore. and made some puns about the gameplay, and I was like, all right,
You'll be hooked on my gameplay.
literally,
the game.
He made a fucking hooked pun, and it was good for him, dude. Fucking good for him. Like, this was no Chris Pratt being like, I love stomping on
Goombas.
I look away from the mic to read the notes that are taped to the side of my webcam.
No, this man was selling it, and I appreciate that. And for Dead by Daylight fans, good for you, man.
How is that game still relevant in 2023? Besides dragging Nick Cage into it, I guess.
I don't know, man.
It's wild.
Kids, man. My little cousin and my little brother play
weird,
this
right?
shit. Like, yeah, man. I don't know. Briefly, Spider-Man 2, we got a release date, 10/20/23.
Why didn't they show this? Why did they just tell the date at the Sony thing 2 weeks ago?
Probably because they had committed to Summer Game Fest and they had to like do something.
Money.
I don't want to spoil anything for Chris. I talked about this last week, but Brian Innerhart confirming that Venom is not Eddie Brock, which leans into a few of my fan theories. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm stoked.
I thought the previous game pretty much confirmed
Yeah, it's
the
like
Venom identity.
the ending of the game shows Redacted getting taken over by the symbiote, or at least interacting with it. Is this a surprise for people?
So spoiler alert for Spider-Man 1. So the whole game, you're getting like voice memos from Harry Osborn, your best friend, and obviously his dad, Norman, is like a part of the story. He's like the fucking mayor, right? Is he the mayor?
Yeah.
And so you understand there's this like side plot. You understand that Harry is like away. But you uncover that he was actually sick and he went away for treatment. And at the end, the sort of reveal about Harry was that Norman Osborn has him in his little fucking laboratory, basically. He's got a little Bacta tank with the symbiote. So Harry's being treated by the symbiote, whether that is of alien origin or some sort of sci-fi mumbo jumbo. Harry is not going to be Venom. Harry is not going to be Venom. I've been saying that since that reveal. Harry's not going to be Venom. I have a couple of theories as to who it might actually be.
Who do you think it's going to be? Like, I'd be shocked if they don't go for that route.
It's Genki, yeah.
No.
The Venom in the chair.
No, I think that would be too obvious and safe. I think we're going to get Harry Osborn back, and I hope we get to deal with some of his PTSD and stuff. I think it's a really interesting way to introduce the symbiote, like the whole concept of like, when Spider-Man wins, Peter loses kind of thing, and he's going to save the day, but like he's got to like make some tough decisions about his best friend. And no, I think it would be too easy to just be like, all right, Harry's the new Venom. And no, I think it's an awesome way to introduce it. I hope they don't fully commit to that bit. I had a few ideas of who maybe it could be that would be kind of interesting, one of which being Norman himself. It's like, do we really want to do the whole Green Goblin thing again? But the one thing I appreciate the most about Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales is the way that they take the source material and they kind of do what Bendis did with the Ultimate Universe. They're able to reinvent it in such an interesting way, but it is still a love letter to fans, even though it is clearly like, well, that's not the same thing that I grew up with. Well, no, it's not, because that would be boring. But it is still done in a way that honors what came before it, but sort of tweaks some things in a way that you're actually on the edge of your seat. And I fucking love that. The Insomniac universe does that so goddamn well. So I'm really excited for this. But that's all they showed. They showed a splash screen and a date. They didn't really talk about it, show anything else. That was it.
It's going to be Harry. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it in the fall. I'm going to play the first one in the fall. It's going to be one of my days, one of my rotation days.
It's a very good game. Very easy platinum. My first platinum trophy ever.
It's what started you on this dark path.
Yes. Many platinums ago. Okay, here we go. Nick, have you watched anything about Liza P?
No, I saw that they have a demo available. I thought maybe I could check that out sometime.
I watched I can't remember the guy's name. I saw clips from Andy Cortez from Kind of Funny, who is a big Souls guy, and he streamed all through all of the Souls games. He's very happy. He says this is the demo. He said this is the best Souls-like I've played, which bodes well. The long play that I watched, or as long as the demo could be, but I watched kind of skimmed through, I guess, a complete play of the demo. The PC performance was flawless.
That's surprising. Yeah, it seems like that's one of the things that a small dev with their first time, like big sort of game would struggle with, is hitting PC performance in particular.
Yeah, I obviously can't speak to like Bloodborne. I mean, I played it, but I don't know these games well enough to really talk about it. But it seems like Bloodborne to me, with a little more, to my eye, like personality because of some of the
Timothy Chalamet stand-in for the main character.
Exactly right, and like all the enemies being like fucking some combination of like Toys to Life and other creepy fucking
Toys to life.
yeah, dude. Disney Infinity, Captain America, and his fucking
The Skylanders show up.
yeah.
Spyro.
It looked good to my eye, and people are happy about it. This is going to absolutely, not that there was much hope of, well, especially Chris, but even myself coming back in the Whammy League, this will cement Nick's victory by a very large margin.
I've had like two of the most votiest voty games of the year.
Bro, well,
The only thing I missed was Redfall.
you counterpicked this, right? Chris picked this, so you're gonna,
Yeah, I know. I'm in like deep first.
yeah, like you're gonna get like 25 points on this fucking goddamn piece of shit game.
Yeah. I think the Wody trophy should be the Korok poop as a statue.
You have to earn that.
If you win, we already know what we're getting you. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. I'm just saying that's my contribution to this.
We'll get you a 3D printed Korok shit trophy with Wody embossed on it.
That's what you're gonna get if you win the regular league, motherfucker.
Even better.
Akira Toriyama, Sandland. No clue what this game is supposed to be. It looks like Akira Toriyama, but also shitty.
I thought this game got announced / shared sometime last year. Maybe I knew there was a Sandland adaptation being done, but it's like, I don't know anything about the manga. It's manga, right? It's just a
Correct.
one-shot sort of
Yeah.
short novel, I guess.
Yep.
And B, like you said, there's no gameplay. Did they show gameplay? Like, what are you do? You're just wandering around the sand. You're being a Goku in the desert. Like, that's cool. People love that shit.
Sandland really shows off like Akira Toriyama's love for vehicle and vehicle design.
That's tight.
There's a lot of that in the book, and I assume going to be a large element of the gameplay, but I mean, yeah, there's nothing really to glean from this other than, oh, holy shit, that's Toriyama. Cool.
Whatever. Next year, or do they have a year on it?
I don't know if they had a year. I didn't put a year in my notes because I either missed it or didn't. Yeah. Chris, have you played Alan Wake? Have I asked you this before?
You have not, and I have not. I never played a horror game really until I did RE2 this year.
Well, Alan Wake is looking like Resident Evil.
I heard it's very Twin Peaksy, the first one, and that game got a remaster really recently, didn't it?
Yes, like last year.
I might have to play both of these then.
It seems like your vibes.
Twin Peaksy is definitely how I would probably describe.
You would really like Control as well, also from Remedy.
Oh god, yeah, that's fucking happening for sure.
Well, they're all part of the same universe. Now you have to fucking, if you're going to play Alan Wake 2, you got to do it all. So from my understanding, this is their first foray into proper survival horror.
Yes.
And they're doing the dual protagonist thing, like very Resident Evil, right?
More like prescribed, like changing between the two characters, which Resident Evil does occasionally, but primarily what they've done in past entries is like you have a route where you play as one character and then you do another one. I think specifically to RE2.
Yeah.
But I believe they also did that with Resident Evil 3, and RE4 had a expansion, or like the Ada Wong stuff was added later. I don't think that was like a full game.
No.
And then 5 or 6, I think, was like a really weird sort of chapterized, here you're playing as this character and here you're playing as this character, but that game is widely derided, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, multiple protagonists is sort of a Resident Evil element, but I think it's interesting that they're doing a sequel where you're playing as the character, the titular character, but also a like FBI agent who's investigating this dude who's got like weird stuff happening around him.
Very X-Files.
Vanished into
Super
excuse me. It's very Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Vanished into
Of
the
An
the
FBI
magical
agent
world of darkness.
coming into the woods basically to find someone who's vanished into a dark like reflection of our own world, like
The woods in the Pacific Northwest.
yeah,
specifically.
this is fucking Twin Peaks. This is and I love X-Files is absolutely like a godchild of Twin Peaks, as is much of like science fiction, supernatural television media. I could go on, but this is not the Console Crusade Lynch cast. I'm gonna play the shit out of this game. I don't need to be buying more games, but I'm gonna.
Oh, man. I was going to avoid it looks very Lynchian jokes, but you guys just took it right there for me.
It is what it is, brother.
Whenever something looks vague and nondescript and also dumb, it's very Lynchian to me. Brendan is extremely stoked for this game, as both a survival horror fan and an Alan Wake fan. I don't know. I think like the idea of like, oh, you're an investigator and like you're solving a mystery instead of just killing waves of zombies. Like that's cool. Much more tasteful. And if I'm going to play a horror game,
EJ, this game's too scary for you immediately.
dude, I've been playing Diablo 4 all week. That's too scary for me. Yeah.
Dude, what class are you playing?
Oonga boonga.
Oh, you're playing a barb? Are you going to make another character for when I get back and start playing weekly?
Yeah. 1000%. Brennan and I have been pretty into it.
That's good because I'm going to play barb also because I don't know how to play Diablo yet.
I'm literally smashing A through this entire experience. I played like a day of Diablo 2. I played a day of Diablo 3, and I played 2 hours of Path of Exile, which is basically Diablo 2. And never really took hold, but everyone's talking about Diablo 4, and everyone's playing it, and so I said, fuck it, if y'all buy it, I'll buy it. And anyway, so that's what we've been doing. But yeah, that shit's too scary for me, and it's not even scary.
Lilith is scary hot.
Yeah. So, okay, after Alan Wake here, Final Fantasy VII. My only note is, looks kind of bad to me, but Chris, take it away.
Oh my god, this game looks so fucking good. Oh, it looks so good. Oh my god. Okay, so this is a Nomura joint, and so like it's gonna be dimension bending, timeline bending. Like spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a few years old at this point, but the end of the game sees you functionally killing fate. Like you literally fight aspects of Cloud, Tifa, Barret, and Aerith before fighting Sephiroth in his sort of progression through his different iterations way earlier in the timeline of Final Fantasy VII than you ever would have, with the implication being that Sephiroth seems to have some understanding of the fact that he needs to interfere with canon events, dare I say. Got across the Spider-Verse was so fucking good. In order to get what he wants, ? It's not clear, but they have given themselves like a blank slate. And then there's also the bombshell at the end of Remake that in some timeline, because of the events of Remake, Zack survives the assault that kills him in the original game and is alive in some timeline, carrying Cloud towards Midgar. So we opened with this trailer of seeing the bodies of Barret, Tifa, Red 13, and Aerith getting bundled into ambulances, and seems to strongly imply, like, we don't see Cloud there for a reason, and at the end of Remake, they get out of Midgard just fine, like the Avalanche's efforts were a success. So it seems like they're already setting us up for, this is the Zack timeline, where because Cloud doesn't take Zack's sword and sort of sponge up some of his memories because of his head injuries and exposure to Mako, that he was never there. And things are sort of falling out that way. We get a look at like a lot of the outdoor environments. Now we're getting into like a bigger world map out of Midgar, which was like not really linear, but like it's pretty contained by design, right? Like they're slums most of the time. And then, we're getting to the world map. It looks beautiful. We're getting at least another 2 playable characters in the form of Red 13 and Yuffie. Yuffie was in the Intergrade DLC, which I still need to play now that I have a PS5.
Have is sort of a tenuous descriptor.
To have, but not to hold, for it is in Kentucky. Just like my wife. I'm so lonely.
Oh, buddy.
Anyway.
My wife.
So we also get a quick shot of what pretty clearly looks like the Highwind docked. So we're probably going to see Sid, which is tight because I love that like crusty son of a bitch, and he's a spear user, so I respect it. Anyway, the big bombshell to come out of that trailer, besides the like which timeline are we in and where did it fracture, is Sephiroth strongly implying that he killed Tifa at Nibelheim. I don't know how they pronounce it in the trailer. Which does not happen in the original Final Fantasy VII. He wounds her, but Cloud comes in and kills Sephiroth, so he thinks, on his own sword, and gets Tifa to safety. So he's like, I killed her, so who's that? And that's the end of the trailer. And it could be like Sephiroth mindfuckery, just trying to like manipulate Cloud. Like there's a lot of discourse about like, oh, this is just a way that he's trying to get the black materia from Cloud to summon Meteor. And I'm like, I don't think so. because again, Tetsuya Nomura, this is the Kingdom Hearts motherfucker. Like that would be the easiest, most simple way to do that, and that just doesn't seem like something he's interested in doing. It seems much more likely to me that wherever this Sephiroth came from, he is well aware of the fact that what he tried last time did not work. And so he's trying to upset the canon and jar the timeline to see if he can be successful. And whether that's for like the goal that he says in Advent Children, which is to like infect the planet and use it as a vessel and sail through space in it, which is some anime-ass anime shit for sure, as I say it out loud for the first time in a long time. Or something else, it's not clear. But I think that there's a strong likelihood that we're going to at least be seeing like some meaty cutscenes in what I'm calling the Zack timeline, which branched when Sephiroth interrupted things in Remake. I would be surprised if we don't like play as Zack for more than a little bit. I just think it's too rich to not, unless they're saving it for part 3. We may get some timeline hopping or timeline bleeding. I think it's very likely that Aerith is not going to die. I thought since Remake that they're going to murk Tifa. Like somebody's got to die, and they're really like sewing the two of them close together in a lot of the changes and additions that they made. So anyway, boy howdy, I am like out of wind to keep talking, but I'm so fucking excited for this game. Combat looks great. I love this story. I love wibbly wobbly dimension folding bullshit. Like I get off on it. I eat it up. It is my air. It is my lifeblood. And this is giving me all of it.
You sort of talked about the name, and how that ended up sort of being, a little telling about how they've structured this game. But this is essentially a retelling or a reimagining of Final Fantasy VII.
It is, yeah. It's almost, what if we could do whatever we want with this property, knowing how deeply entrenched the original game is in the zeitgeist and the collective consciousness of gamers. If we take that as like a baseline that everybody who's going to play this game is like, they know Final Fantasy VII. Or damn near all of the people who are going to play that game, they know Final Fantasy VII. What can we do that will surprise them? What can we do that will be different? But
how do we subvert their expectations?
I mean, this is the same Square Enix that gave us Advent Children and Dirge of Cerberus and all the other Final Fantasy VIIs. So it makes total sense that the remake would be just as batshit.
And speaking of all those other 7s, we also got a look. I don't think it was Thursday. It might have been at Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. What this is a packaging.
Put it on Switch. Come on.
I know, it's right there. It's a mobile game. There's no like stamina system, so to speak, for like doing missions. So you can just like literally do missions. But it is every single compilation of Final Fantasy VII game redone into like a mobile friendly version that you can play through much quicker to get the full events of everything that happens in this story. So it's going to go through Crisis Core. It's going to go through Before Crisis. It's going to include First Soldier, which I think that was a mobile game in Japan only that you play as like all the different Turks. It's going to have Dirge of Cerberus. It's going to have Advent Children. It's going to have the original Final Fantasy VII, of course. So you'll be able to get, and I've never played Dirge of Cerberus. I own it. And I've never played it. I bought it way after the PS2 era for like $15 at a resale shop.
People talk about it so glowingly.
Because it's like more weird Final Fantasy VII shit, and it's also Vincent, who's so fucking cool. He's like so goddamn cool, and you just place him and shoot
out of
things.
the edge.
Yeah. So that's also coming. And I will absolutely be picking that up so I could get that plot. Oh my God, there's so much Final Fantasy content. Like I get a mainline Final Fantasy. Well, I get it in August, but the world gets a mainline Final Fantasy in like a week. We get 7 Rebirth in like 6 months. Ever Crisis is coming out anytime. I still haven't bought the Crisis Core remaster, which I absolutely am going to buy to play through again. It's just like a good ass time to be me, like a Final Fantasy gamer. I haven't eaten as a Final Fantasy gamer in a minute, y'all. In a fucking minute.
Since 2020.
Yeah.
2020 was Final Fantasy Remake, right?
Yeah, and it's still like that showed up, the special edition I bought on sale, like showed up at my house, and I stared at the box and was like, what? Like this is really happening? Like that had been in the vapors for years, and then it's just like there it was. It was real, and it was so fucking good.
I think it's kind of cool that they turned this game, the sequel, around in 4 years, when it seems like it's so much bigger than the previous one in scope, and like the locales and the areas you're going to be traversing. Like, that's awesome. Good for them.
It didn't surprise me. I felt like once they had that, like the world and the assets and the engine and like how does this work?
In-house. They weren't making CyberConnect to make it.
Right, exactly.
And they changed to Unreal Engine instead of their bad first-party engine that they just like closed the studio that made it.
And is this a multi-platform release? This is PS5 only, right?
PS5 only, PC later, probably like 6 months to a year down the line.
And they also basically brought all that stuff over to a new console and developed it on a new console, which is to say that like part 3, which is already in development, is probably going to come even faster than that. Maybe 2 years, maybe 3 from the release of this. It's amazing. I love life. Like these are, it's E3 time. It's not E3, but it's E3 time.
Chris, you've already answered this, but Nick, I'm curious.
What's up?
Are we sick of all the timeline, time travel fuckery, the multi-dimensional in a post Endgame, post No Way Home? Spider-Man, the animated is doing. It's everywhere now. Are we sick of this?
Go ahead, Chris. I see you just mouth fucking that mic.
I know Chris isn't specifically.
Nope. No.
So when it gets to time travel stuff and interdimension stuff, it's so easy to just take away all the stakes and be like, just kidding. Oh, never mind. Like, sure, Uncle Ben's dead now, but what if in another dimension he's alive? And you just like take away everything that you cared about for so long. It's hard to do. It can be done well, and when it is done well, it's done well because the characters are still treating death like a consequence. And that's something that I think the Spider-Man movies now, the two of them, the Spider-Verse movies, treat really well and like really respect the consequences and the stakes that these characters are going through. So I'm not sick of it per se. I think just like any sort of trope or trend, if it's done badly, it's just done badly. But that's not like the fault of the trope or the trend. It's just the fault of the creators not being good enough.
At some point, you can't. Flash is coming out now, and they're doing some pseudo Flashpoint thing, and
oh boy, that's gonna be so bad. Speaking of doing it badly, I can't wait to see that this weekend and then shit on it next Monday when we record.
But it won't be bad because it's a timeline thing. It'll be bad because the creators have to deal with their like WP overlords who have no idea how to like cherish and make a franchise thrive. So they have the worst hand dealt to them, and they just have to deal with it. And Ezra Miller, who's just absolutely out of it.
Yeah, Ezra Miller's off the fucking rails. The previews have been glowing. The reviews have been slightly less so, but still positive. More positive than pretty much any recent Marvel movie, except for Guardians, like did well. So I don't know. I mean, that was baffling to me. Is DC has been the butt of all the jokes for the last, decade, you know?
Pretty much everything besides the first Wonder Woman movie was pretty dismal.
Wonder Woman was fine, but yeah, a lot of it's been dismal. BVS, and the second Wonder Woman was really bad.
Never saw it, but pandemic times. That was like the first one that they released on streaming, right?
Right. That
it was
failed
bad.
Experiment.
Very, very bad. Poor Pedro.
Oh, Pedro is more than made up for it since then. As far as the public eye is concerned. Anyway.
Making a living transporting young beings across desolate landscapes.
It's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah.
So let's move on to this. I don't really know anything about this other than all the memes. Pokemon with guns. Palworld. We've got to be quick. We have a lot more to go through in the next hour.
Yeah, Palworld's a meme. We don't have to talk about it. It's just like, whatever, flash in the pan, no one gives a shit, move on. Like, the best thing they can ask for is to get sued by Pokemon Company. And they'll have a Kotaku article, and that's like the extent of their marketing campaign.
Listen, I'll play this on principle. Just like you could make a game that looks good in the current year, and that's enough to...
They didn't.
It looks like what a Pokemon game by modern standards would look like.
It looks like a, what if Mario was an Unreal Engine 4 YouTube video? That's all it is.
So you mean a game that looks good by modern standards? What's the problem?
No,
with
it looks like an asset flip.
I don't know. Well, it does kind of look like the new Sonic game in that way. So I take
which
your
also
meaning.
looked like an asset flip. Like, come on.
Yeah, I take your meaning.
Like, really, are we gonna talk about Twisted Metal in like a really cringe TV spot? Like, we don't have to talk about that. Sonic Superstars look cool.
Yay, old Sonic. I'm excited. I will buy this game. It looked like a real return to form. I love the art style. I think they struck a good balance between like what feels good nostalgically and what looks good now. I love 4 different playable characters. We get the like Sega CD Amy design instead of the Sonic Adventure Amy design, which I appreciate. I think we talked about this on the Top 100 Games pod of like, would we want to go back to like an old school Sonic in a modern setting? And after Mania, I was like, yeah, I don't know if they'll ever do it again though. And like, here we are. So damn.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. The animation is really high quality. I want to watch it again with headphones because I just watched the trailer on my phone, and I want to hear it. Like, I think that's a big part of Sonic's appeal is the sound design as well. So I need to listen to it more thoroughly. But I think it looks really cool. I don't know how you do like a Sonic game with multiplayer, like a 2D Sonic game that's like fucking the new Super Mario Bros. Like, that sounds awful.
People getting
But
left behind or running off screen
Yeah, if they
and
show something
vanishing.
cool, like exactly. Like, it just seems like there's so many design conceits that they would have to then be chained to if they did it that way. But I don't know. I mean, I think it looks nice. I think I was not expecting a Sonic game this year. I thought it would just be like, oh, Frontiers, DLC, whatever.
Yeah, this is more of like the past should stay dead. They've been trying to make Sonic relevant for decades and good for
And
decades.
he's super relevant.
He's relevant with like, I think, a niche audience, but like critically,
The movies are so popular. The cartoons are so popular. The comics are so popular. It's just the games are bad.
And they did Sonic 4 like what 15 years ago, and that was like
Oh, God.
chapter based on iPhone only. Like, what a disaster.
Oops.
They haven't done a proper Sonic. I mean, Mania, but that was kind of like, nostalgia HD remix deluxe by modders, what I'm saying?
Generations.
Yeah, and even that was sort of like, it's 3D Sonic that's been like the slow heat death of Sonic the Hedgehog, like Sonic Primal, Sonic 2006 where he kisses a human, Sonic at the Black Knight, Sonic at the Secret Rings, and just all the like kitschy fucking WiiWare crap. No, I'm here for this. Take my money.
it's one of those, another instance where I'm like, do we need to like do the cheap mobile game 3D graphics to like make it like, oh, it's a modern take on a classic? Like, why can't we just do a fucking amazing goddamn sprite-based game? Why are these companies so averse to that?
They did do that. Sonic Mania.
How did Sonic Mania do? Why are we doing this? Why aren't we just taking what
The
was
team that made it isn't making video games anymore because Sega is incompetent in most ways. So now they're doing the cheap thing, which is making a video game the regular way.
very Mighty Number 9? I don't like it. It's cheap.
Oh, what? No, come on.
That is a low blow. I don't know if you've seen Mighty Number 9 recently.
That game
but that's
fucking sucks.
and it looks bad. I mean, this game looks nice. I think it looks nice. Looks like the last like couple Kirby games, or like
Yeah.
it just has a nice art style, has a good aesthetic, it has a good feeling. It looks like it's fun to play. It's got that momentum, the physics that you expect from a Sonic game, the je ne sais quoi. It doesn't look like a mobile game to me.
Speaking of mobile games, I started playing Advance Wars on the Game Boy this week, and I always knew that I was like, oh, I'll just buy it when it goes on sale. I'll buy it on Switch. But I was like, I really hate the way that game looks. Just playing a solid tactics fucking game, 2D sprite based. I mean, it's just evergreen, man. It looks good. It feels good. I want more of that. Why? It only exists in the indie space. Why?
It's other nostalgic 30-year-olds that are making those games.
Is it just that children, they look at sprite art and they say that's old?
Yeah, it looks old and ugly.
Kids these days.
Unless it's Stardew Valley or Terraria, in which case it's charming and quirky.
Stardew Valley is a game that I tried to go back to get Sarah into when she was looking for like quaint, cozy games.
Yeah, that's not a game though. That's a job. That's too much work.
That's true. I thought it was kind of ugly though. I was like, oh yeah, this could definitely use an update.
I've always thought that too. But, people love it. They want to date their gamer girlfriend in Stardew Valley. Good for them.
Yeah. I think it's an awesome game, but a little ugly. Xbox Showcase. This is the one everyone was waiting for. How many times in this podcast, guys, have we said, what does this mean for Microsoft? And it's been a lot of not great things. That's what it's meant. this seemed like a good showcase. People were happy.
Yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty nice. It was fine.
It was okay. Quit coming at me. I'm sure Chris and I are going to ramble about this Fable trailer, but Nick, give me your thoughts on the Fable.
Fable was interesting in that I thought that they wouldn't really, just based on stuff going on Twitter beforehand, it seemed like the game's head, like the heads of the studios and the heads of Xbox were saying like, guys, we're not going to do like all CG. Like we're trying to focus on gameplay. And then they opened with Fable, which was largely rendered in game, like in engine, whatever. But that's not the gameplay. You're watching cutscenes at the very least. And it was more of a tone piece, which that was the way they introduced it the first time around, was a tone piece with like a weird, like glittery fairy getting killed and fart jokes, which is like, that is what Fable is. The things I know about Fable is that the dude who was the head of that company made a bunch of big promises and lied about everything. And that it was like quirky British fart joke humor and like chickens and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. Like that's my extent of Fable knowledge. And it seemed like this was a return to quirky British humor with Richard Ayoade, who is hilarious. And I love him in IT Crowd. And he's like funny. He's great. This was a tone piece. It was just like, yeah, this game's going to be funny. We got jokes. But they didn't show anything as far as gameplay. So it's hard to be like, yay, Fable. It's just like, oh, yeah, cool.
The sort of weird British sitcom shtick was weird. It was not, I guess I don't really know much about Fable outside of like when I was like 10 and like my uncle played it on an Xbox and it was just like a fantasy game that I had never heard of because I didn't have an Xbox. It was like I was watching one of those weird commercials where they're like they'll do like a Skyrim X like NBA spot or something. And it's just this weird, uncanny, like, wait, what is, why is this? It was just very weird. And I was like, this is a video game. This is a fantasy game. And so I don't really know. I wasn't really into it. I was like, this is an interesting way to open the show. And I thought, oh, this is what the rest of the showcase is going to be. I don't know if it's for me.
What was the fucking point of this? Like Fable's not unique anymore in terms of being like, kind of offbeat and slightly vulgar in its humor. Like I remember being in middle school and people were like, you can do this move if you're like evil aligned called the vulgar thrust. And that was like, oh my God, you could do the vulgar thrust. Like who fucking cares?
Okay.
Like you could do anything in any game and there's a lot of quirky, offbeat, slightly vulgar spaces out there that frankly do it a lot better. And I'm like, why is the fucking guy from the IT Crowd here? Love you, you're hilarious, but all you're telling me is, okay, we're gonna do that, but I don't care. Like why did we get this at all? Why did we need this? Other than to like maybe calm investors down, because I don't understand what the point of this was. No gameplay? Like what is this?
Yeah, maybe some parts that you could conceivably consider gameplay, but like the highly guided Uncharted style of gameplay where it's press button to continue cutscene kind of thing where the gal's running through some fire. Yeah, this was an announcement trailer for a game they've already announced. So it's totally redundant.
Lots of angry people again in the live chat, of course, angry that you're going to be a woman supposedly and not be able to create your own character. Of course, this did not give us any gameplay, so there's really no basis for what this game is going to do or not do. But people were mad at the idea of like, I want this to be as non-PC as possible, making me be a woman, yada, yada, yada. Whatever, shut the fuck up. I guess if the humor is on brand, sure. But I thought the whole, the Age of Heroes is over, whatever. It was a little bit of a fuck you of like, hey, you know that thing you love? Well, we took their name and doing something different with it. It was very confusing. I think the most positive stuff I've seen are people like Nick, who's like, I never played Fable. This looks interesting.
Yeah, like very measured, like, oh yeah, okay, it could be.
Right. And the Fable fans are like, what the fuck is this? Really quick on South of Midnight. Chris, did you see this trailer?
I did not.
Okay. Nick isn't sitting here, so I can't ask him. Sort of a stop motion thing. Man playing some blues on a guitar. Again, it's just like a reveal trailer, CG, Scary Monsters magic.
Oh, this is the Bayou one that's like maybe vaguely Louisiana set. Yeah, I read about it. I didn't see the trailer, though.
I watched the whole thing. I saw all these trailers, EJ.
Great. Well, now you're here to tell us about what you thought about South of Midnight.
Sorry, I had to pee. South of Midnight, again, announcement trailer, but this time, this is a game we didn't know about. So it's like, this is totally fine.
Yep.
I am fine with a tone piece if it's from a studio we haven't heard from in a while for a game that we've never heard about. Yeah, I like the style. It totally reminds, like you said, stop motion. It reminds me of like the Laika movies from that studio. They did Kubo and stuff like that. Cool, like setting and vibes. Very unique design aesthetic. Like this is a good designed visually game. This is not like aping some other style. Like it's sort of a hodgepodge. It's got a very cohesive aesthetic behind it. And that's really cool. I love that. I love the visual element of video games. I mean, that's like half of it, the way you intake it. So hell yeah, like cool. Don't know when this game's ever coming out. Did they say a year? You don't have a year on here. It's just them saying, hey, this is the game we're making.
This is the thing.
Maybe it's a hiring call. It's say Compulsion Games. They have not made a lot of games. They did Contrast? That was a launch game on PS4, and they did We Happy Few, which was like, oh, that game looks really cool, but then it was like a whatever roguelike kind of thing. So what the game is, no idea, but it looks really nice. Good for them.
So the big one of this showcase, outside of Starfield, obviously, which they dedicated an entire hour to, but we got Star Wars Outlaws.
Why didn't they show like anything good in the Xbox showcase? It was just bad quipping and like a completely trite bar fight thing.
Money.
And nothing about what the gameplay, like just show a single snippet of her doing a dogfight in space and like hiding behind cover and popping some like stormtroopers or whatever. Like just show like 10 seconds of gameplay.
UB wanted it. I agree with you. I watched the teaser and was like, oh, good God, like this is exhausting. Like this just looks dumb and bad. And like we're just recycling through Star Wars tropes and hoping that we make some more money. And
Yeah, I mean, honestly, bar fights, bounty hunters, like Jin Urso. Like, again, we're doing this character again.
I'm a scoundrel. I'm only looking out for myself. Oh, I've got to save the world.
Quite exhausting. And I still feel like getting a sort of look at the underbelly, no Jedi, no Force, just being a person existing in this like crazy world while all these terrible things are going on with the Empire. Like the period between Empire and Jedi is like that's a really compelling couple of years. That's like a 3-year gap where a lot of crazy shit is happening,
which they talked about on their own time and not in this Xbox showing. So it's like they showed the worst part of it, the least compelling part of it, and just sort of like said, please be excited. It was just a bad preview for like a real preview that later would actually look actually cool and somewhat compelling. Like I thought I watched like 5 to 10 minutes of the actual like gameplay presentation that they did with Ubisoft today, and I was like, that looks pretty cool. Like they're doing a bunch of different things.
What is
this
it?
seems like a Star Wars game where you're doing Star Wars stuff.
what do you do? Like what kind of game is it?
It's a third-person cover shooter,
Oh,
Yeah,
fuck
and
that.
you got like space dog fights
Nope.
and like open world stuff.
Nope.
Yeah, it's an open world game, a proper open world Star Wars game. Cool. It's like Uncharted meets like
It's
Horizon.
made by the Division devs, so yeah, it's got like Horizon vibes to it, like really strange locations and stuff.
So, you know what's funny is like just a bunch of fucking trailers like this get most people really jacked. We're not most people, obviously. Like, we want to see substance. Like, after the Metroid Prime 4 splash screen, it was just kind of like, all right, we're done fucking, like, show me something or don't fucking show me something. You know what I
That
mean?
was the day it died. That was the day it died for me, that I was like, I never want to see anything that you cannot show me gameplay and give me a release window ever again.
I'll still be excited if it warrants it, but like, oh, another Star Wars thing? Oh boy, like we're not in that place. If it was a
No.
franchise that had been, questionably alive, then sure, like that could be an exciting announcement. Say, hey, this is coming back. Like if they showed a Banjo-Kazooie logo, I would pop. Like that's just the honest truth,
Yeah.
right? Like because there's no life there. There's nothing
Right.
saying like, yeah, there might be more Star Wars. They're not going to be cagey about that because we all know, we
Right.
get it.
Or if this was like an Elder Scrolls 6, like a 2-minute proper story trailer for like an Elder Scrolls where it's
Yep,
like, oh,
I'd be done.
Great.
I'd be like
We-
exhausted.
2029, whatever, but like
Yeah,
you would
like,
still be
oh my
excited
God,
because that's
oh my
like
God.
sign of life.
It's got a release
Right.
window.
So I will say there are a couple interesting things. After watching the gameplay, I was like, all right, this is gonna probably be good. This is an 80, but like, do I need more of this? Like, the Star Wars fan in me is almost dead. He's hanging on by a thread.
A thread named Cassian.
Andor season 2 is coming, EJ. Hold on.
I know.
Hold on.
A series that didn't need to be a series.
But
it
is
is,
still
and
the
it's so
best
good.
piece of Star Wars media ever made. Like, it's astonishing.
But it still should have been just one season anyway.
No, I trust that it was planned. It was planned. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Andor. Go on.
Right. I'm just kind of over, not kind of, I am so over the very surface level approach to what Star Wars is, and just constantly fundamentally misunderstanding like what makes Star Wars great, what made it great in the 70s and 80s, what captured the imagination of fucking hundreds of millions of people and catapulted it to like one of the greatest franchises in American history. And basically just looking at it and being like, okay, we're going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. This looks right. Boom, there's Star Wars. And it's over and over. Disney has just pumped out bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. They just don't understand the spirit of Star Wars, but it looks right. And so people are happy. And it's become so bastardized that either people are just Stockholmed into liking it, or they don't even know what Star Wars fucking even is in the first place. Or they're fans like you, Nick, where you're like, I enjoy Star Wars, but it's bad. Which is like a fine place to be. Like, you don't care enough, but you enjoy it fine, right?
I feel like I'm in the best place to enjoy a franchise like Star Wars because
Yeah.
I can be right about it.
Mm.
And I don't have expectations like you somehow say you don't, but then you trick yourself into having. And then you see Rise of, you see freaking, what was the second sequel movie? Like, you saw, how many times do you see that in theaters? I mean, and it was a movie that you convinced yourself that you hated, but you still see the movie in theaters. Like,
Well,
20 times.
I saw
that's
Force
just an
Awakens
example.
7 times in theaters, recapturing the magic and the hype and the expectation and thinking, is this good? Did I like that? And then I saw the second movie twice and was like, nope, bad movie. And then I saw the last one once, tried to rewatch it on Blu-ray like the week it came out, got like 20 minutes into it, was like, nope. And that's the last, like, Star Wars died to me. Like, that's it. That's all. I'm done. So anyway, this didn't really move me. But I will say, interesting, in the little cutscene, she meets a man named Jalen who is definitely Kyle fucking Katarn. And that is interesting to me.
Okay, so when you say Kyle Katarn, I have zero differentiation between that name and the guy I know is from the N64 game, which is Dash Rendar, right?
Dash Rendar is Han Solo's cousin, and he is a bounty hunter, right?
See, when you say Kyle Katarn, I only see like, oh, just another like Han Solo like. That's the image that's summoned in my mind.
Jedi Academy? Jedi Knight? Like the Dark Forces protag?
First appearance is in Dark Forces,
Okay, so yes.
and he is the protagonist. He is like the original like gray Jedi, like no longer a part of the Order, or obviously in a post
66
world, exactly. But sort of the like, hey, I'm a badass with a lightsaber. I'm not a good guy. He's like not like the Punisher, not the anti-hero, but like the term gray Jedi like was sort of coined because of Kyle Katarn. And the Jedi Outcast games were fucking cool at the time. They don't hold up very well, but it looks exactly like Kyle Katarn, the exact same outfit. And part of me is like, that's fucking cool. What would they do with him? Is he gonna actually plot twist, be one of the main characters of the game? But also, as much as we cry about, like, do we just need to do Jedi? Like, we have a whole fucking game about goddamn Jedi. Can we do something different in this universe like we did with Andor? But on the other hand, I'm like, no, just bring me back the good things about the canon nuke that Disney dropped,
KOTOR 3.
Stop it.
But that'd be cool, right? If you saw a KOTOR 3 come up and it's like actually made by BioWare.
Oh, that's different. That's different. Chris is climaxed. Anyway.
Or even Obsidian, and they actually have like budget because they're owned by Microsoft. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, right. Anyway, space fights look cool in the gameplay. That I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want. Haven't had good Star Wars space fights in a long time.
It looked like a perfectly cromulent Western open world RPG.
Yeah.
Open world action adventure. I don't know what you call the video game.
The video game.
This is the video game.
The ones that are most accessible and most profitable because they're the best and people like them.
It's weird that it's taken this long for like a proper like open world Star Wars game, right? Like, what's the closest you really get is Lego?
Oh God. I mean, the closest you get is the Jedi games, even though those are not open world. They're like pseudo open world. You can kind of go where you want in between missions, and you have a number of planets to choose from, and you can explore.
Like arenas with tunnels, though. It's like a
Those are
it's like a map.
Metroidvanias. Yeah, no. I mean, we've never gotten one.
We have never, but that's the closest I would say. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right after this, we got one of our favorite Star Wars developers, Obsidian,
And South Park developers, don't forget.
and South Park, Stick of Truth. Obsidian showed more of their game Avowed.
Yeah, Skyrim too.
That's kind of what it looked like, very Skyrim-esque. I immediately texted the group chat. I just said "Wody 2024." I thought this looked terrible.
I don't get that vibe. That is a very bold take, considering how bad we know games can be. So I think this will be fine at worst. Like, this is probably gonna be a good game. Obsidian doesn't make terrible games. They've had trouble in the past with like not having the budget or the time to do something, but I don't know if that's the case here. I don't think so. This isn't a case of them working under Bethesda, working under Microsoft, and just still being shackled by Bethesda's bad decision making, like Redfall was.
Sure.
This is like an indie dev that Microsoft bought and then has history with making really big AAA-ish kind of games. So I feel like they're going to nail it because they have a history of nailing it.
Pentiment, really positively reviewed last year.
Certainly.
Outer Worlds, which I played a little bit, people really liked.
Yeah, people like that one. It's like a spacey Fallout, and this is like more like their Elder Scrolls-y sort of. Not as like I don't see this game and think this is going to be as big game-wise as a Skyrim, but it certainly evokes that sort of spell casting, the more swords and board kind of fantasy RPG.
It looked generic to me. It was just sort of one of those like run-of-the-mill fantasy games, clearly aping Skyrim, which is a fucking 12-year-old game at this point. That's a fucking goddamn retro game. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm like, I don't necessarily need this. It's the world of Pillars of Eternity.
Right, which people love those games. I mean, they were Kickstarter games, I want to say. Or not Kickstarter, but were they Kickstarter? They might have been Kickstarter.
I'm not sure.
Because those were spiritual successors to the D&D games that they did back in the day. Similarly, sort of to the Tides of Numenera. I mean, there was like a whole cottage industry of, hey, you remember that D&D game from 1999? Well, we made that game, and we want to make another game that's like that game, but not D&D because we cannot secure that license because Hasbro is Hasbro. Yeah, there was like a dozen of those in the past like 10 years or so. I think Larian is another studio that is the genre of game that they cut their teeth on. Now they're making Baldur's Gate 3, which seems like that's going to be another GOTY contender kind of game. So yeah, I mean, it being part of the Pillars world seems like cool, fine for them.
For them, right. For a very small niche. There were some rumblings that this might be a co-op game.
I think they would show that by now if that was like the case.
Yeah, that's what we thought. Like that, without you would think this would have been the place to do it. Maybe it was originally planned. Like these rumblings come from somewhere, so maybe it was in development and they couldn't figure it out, or they're still trying to figure it out, or they scrapped it halfway through. But to me, if it's like if you're gonna do a generic Elder Scrolls game and you want it to be popular, make it fucking multiplayer. That's the one thing, dude. All the different co-op mods for Skyrim, they just don't quite work properly.
Because the game doesn't.
Or it certainly didn't. That's enough about that. Sea of Thieves.
Bro, when the music came on, I was like, yo, that makes so much sense. I mean, come on.
Come on, dude. Of course, they did do Pirates of the Caribbean before they got to the good stuff. But
that was before Monkey Island came back. So, I mean, it makes sense that this would...
That's fair.
Happen after the fact.
I don't know how this is going to play out. Like, the Sea of Thieves, narrative content is not exactly anything to write home about. It's just more of an excuse to...
It's like MMO expansion level of like, oh, we do the fun story and we get the recurring drops and it's just part of the cycle.
But it'll be fun to see some of these characters and face off against LeChuck. That'll be fun. That's fun. Monkey Island is, you said the music kicks in and you're just like, fuck, dude. Like, it's got the vibes is there. And this game already has those vibes. like the whimsical, like over the top, cartoony. Just
It's pirate comedy. It's the
Yeah.
match made in heaven.
it's just fucking great. So,
This was like July. It's like soon. It's imminent.
oh, cool. It might be a good reason to get back into Sea of Thieves, which we keep trying to do. Like you want to, like our play group wants to recapture the magic of getting back in together and just like grinding loot for as many hours as we can. You can never really go back home.
I'm happy for y'all. Happy for y'all.
Flight Sim 2024, Microsoft.
I didn't know this was going to be a sequel. I thought this was like, oh, another huge expansion from Flight Sim. But no, then they said 2024. I was like, damn.
A proper sequel.
There's so many people who are just obsessed with like the search and rescue and like firefighter, like firefight, like the planes that fight fires. I don't know if there's like a specific term for it, but like that is like a cottage industry that is huge beyond belief. And it is the stuff that kids absolutely love as well. This is gonna be big. I mean, Flight Sim seemed like it was gonna be huge last time. I don't know how huge it really got, but like this is gonna be big.
It reviewed spectacularly. People love those games. The last one in 2020
Yeah, 2020.
did really well. I have a friend who's like total amateur pilot, like obsessed, like he's full on Sims, like just it's crazy how people get into
real
these.
flights, like real time flights where he's doing, I'm gonna go home and do a 6-hour flight.
Yeah, it's
you know.
crazy, dude.
Really worried about my fuel consumption. I'm really concerned about my fuel consumption.
Right, good reference. Seriously though, people get obsessed. But Chris, did you see the fucking Dune DLC flying the goddamn dragonflies?
Dune. Ornithopters. Oh my god. That was one of my favorite things about the 2021 Dune is that they got the look and feel of the crafts in that universe so fucking precisely. And they always talked about them in the books as being like dragonflies, the ornithopters specifically. And then they just consistently kept getting fucked up every time this got adapted, which is, 2 times, but whatever.
It's weird that it happened twice though.
It is so
Crazy.
weird that it's literally like they're like dragonflies with oscillating wings, and it took Denis Villeneuve finally to be like, what if we did what the book said? And then they did what the book said, and it was amazing.
Preposterous.
It's
it could never
such
work.
a cool, like, who is this for? I mean, this is like even more niche than niche, but I'm so glad this exists.
Dude, it's for flight sickos. They know their audience.
We got, after Microsoft Flight Sim, we got a little bit of Senua 2, where the actor came out and talked about the game. This is kind of where I checked out a little bit because I'm not terribly interested in that game, but it looked like more of that game.
Yeah, another tone piece. Like I said, I mean, they'd already shown like an actual gameplay combat section before. Not on like a big stage, I don't think. I feel like that's like a dev diary kind of thing. I wish they would have shown like a new combat thing, something more exciting. Like, don't come and show me your game unless you have something to say about it. And they just said next year, I think, maybe like tentative, but I don't believe them. It's one of those things where they say 2024. I'm like, okay, hon, like sure. You can believe that and try and make me believe that, but
Can you believe I drafted this game in 2022?
Yeah, that was stupid of you.
Oh man.
Honestly, I would have said the same thing about, and I did say the same thing on this podcast about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that I was like, yeah, late 23, sure. Winter 23, yeah, or totally, absolutely. And it's still coming out in the winter, even though it's coming out in 2024. So stranger things have happened.
Yeah, they never said 2023. They just said next winter. So, I mean,
There you go. They're right on
couldn't still hit
schedule,
that.
which is crazy. It'll
Good for
probably
them.
be a February release. That's my money is February.
all right, EJ, can we talk about Ichiban's like sick cheeks for just a minute?
Why are there so many Yakuza games? Every time I turn around, what? I don't understand.
Well, more than half of them have been remakes. So,
Yes, that's true. Under the new Like a Dragon moniker.
yeah, which, I mean, I know that's the name of the studio and that's the name of the series in Japan, but like it's Yakuza. Come on, it's so much more fun to say. It's more iconic in my mind. But yeah, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, the hilarious subtitle to this.
Okay.
Like a Dragon 8, coming next year. They are so consistent. The studio is just like up there with the studios that like, hey, every couple of years you're gonna get something that you like, and in between then you're gonna get something else that you like that is something that we made a long time ago but never got the love because I don't know why. Like suddenly the tides have churned and everyone actually likes this. So yeah, we'll remake Like a Dragon Ishin and it'll get a plus 80 on OpenCritic and Metacritic, and the fans will go wild, and they will continually go wild for the rest of eternity because they have a backlog that they'll continually mine for more content and remakes galore and side games galore because there's like another Yakuza Like a Dragon game coming out like later this year. And there's already one that came out earlier this year.
Yeah, the Man from U.N.C.L.E. or whatever the fuck it's called.
The man who erased his name.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, that's Kurosawa as fuck.
I tell you, this teaser sure teased me.
It's cool because all the Like a Dragon Yakuza games are heavily focused around being in Japan. And here's the main character of the previous game washing up on a beach that is clearly English speaking because he is speaking Japanese with subtitles, and everyone around him is like, yeah, dude, hang loose because he's naked, which is like the joke. That's the joke. He's naked. It's funny. Yeah. So is this going to take place like in a known American city? Is this Florida? Is this like California? What's happening? It's probably California because, Pacific Ocean, maybe Hawaii, but that is to say, different location. That's cool. I feel like I should play the previous entry because it was a RPG-ass RPG and like full of Dragon Quest references because the combat system is based around the dude being obsessed with Dragon Quest. So he sees his combat experiences as being like turn-based.
That's
and you
so
summon
fucking
dudes
cool.
like
That's
make
so
friends with
cool.
a delivery driver. So you can use him as a summon, like instead of Meteor or like Ultima, you're summoning a crab man who delivers crab to you and then you throw the crab at your enemy. Like it's just absurd, great fun, high stakes, like melodrama mixed with like absurd comedy. So I respect it from a distance.
I get why people like it. That's interesting. Well, after Yakuza, we got Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. No clue what this is.
Looks cool. Looks like a cool little throwback, very far camera sort of action game, PS2 vibes. I thought it was like a return to Onimusha at first because I saw the Capcom logo and like a lot of iconography and visual language of like Oni and Kami and very spiritual, mystic, Japanese mythology kind of stuff, but maybe a little bit more on the Okami side as far as the very flashy kind of nature of it. But man, Capcom games look so fucking good.
After that was Forza.
Checked out.
Yeah, completely. Other than we got a date, which is 10/10. Great. Figured this was coming this year, but bodes well for my for holding on to what is sure to be a very shaky lead. Once Nick
Clenching cheeks, worried about
scoops up-
that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Come on. So hopefully that's an easy 90. Overwatch 2.
Please forgive us.
I didn't pay attention to this. You texted us in the group chat about it, and I was like, this ship has sailed. Great. None of us have really played that. Persona 4 Tactica.
Persona 5 Tactica,
Persona 5 Tactica. See?
which leaked beforehand by Atlas themselves on Instagram. Bit of a
Wait, are you? Did we
oopsie
skip?
whoopsie.
Did we skip Persona 3 Reloaded?
Well, let's just put all the Atlas stuff into one little bucket here. So Persona 5 Tactica is the chibi strategy RPG spinoff.
Yep.
Coming this year. Persona 3 Reload is the fully like ground up remake of Persona 3. It's coming next year. Chris, you're excited about that. You never got to play Persona 3, but this is a series that you've wanted to jump into, and this seems like this is going to be your on point, right?
Oh yeah, I've never played any of them, and I've always wanted to. I have some friends that still Persona 3 is like their favorite game ever. But there's no good way to replay it. They did the releases of the P3P, the PSP port of Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden, which was the Vita port of Persona 4. And I was like, okay, yeah, and the remake, remaster, update rumors were swirling, so I kind of sat back and really validated in that decision now. Yeah, it just seems like something that I'm really gonna like, and I know I hear that 3 kind of has a darker tone than 4, and certainly 5 do, which I love. But I could go for some just like really good JRPG Kino, honestly, and this seems like as good a time as any to do that. Although we don't know for sure if it's coming to anything other than Xbox. It hasn't been confirmed for anything other than Xbox. I'm assuming it will.
It's on everything. Yeah. You can already pre-order the Switch version and stuff like that. I think I shared that in one of the Discords. I'm pretty sure it was Persona 3 Reload that had that.
That's great.
It's weird. After this announcement, they did confirm that it is not like a best of. Is not like, oh, we took the added content from Fez and from P3P and we put that in there too. It's like, no, this is just the base game Persona 3 remade and getting it more of that like Persona 5 vibe with like the running around the schools and like the different locations and having your confidant status and everything. So I wonder how that's going to sort of bode in the pantheon of Persona 3s. Where is this going to sit? Like, is this going to be the de facto, like, oh, no, disregard everything else, so you have to play this one? Or is it going to be another complicated entry into a series in which the fans are like, well, if you want to have the full experience, you got to play this one, and then you got to play this like little epilogue part, and then you got to play, the female protagonist side over here, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's so annoying, dude. Like, just make a remake that is what the fans want, but also a safe entry point for a newcomer, because there's always going to be newcomers with sure, Persona 5 was huge, but there's always going to be newcomers to a niche, highly Japanese RPG like series. Really quick, before we get out of Atlas, I did want to say that Metaphor ReFantasia looks really cool. Big fan of that style.
I don't even know what that is.
It was the other Atlas game that they announced that's not a Persona game, but looks like a Persona game because it's made by the Persona people.
I must have been making lunch at this point.
Yeah, so like Persona and Shin Megami Tensei are they're like monster collectors. So a lot of what you're doing is fusing and combining and like really just hanging out in menus for a lot of it. And that can be gratifying, but it can also be tiring. So I'm hoping, it's hard to tell because they showed this game. I don't even know if it's coming out next year, if it's actually going to come out next year, what's happening, but I'm hoping that it's more just like a strict, here's your party, and you level them up and they get new moves and you're not hanging out in menus so goddamn much. That's been mostly the boner killer for me in the SMT oeuvre.
Before we jump to Starfield here, I kind of want to just end with Starfield and deep dive on that a little bit. So they showed a Cyberpunk DLC, which seems very big.
A lot of changes.
Yeah, I can't really speak to it. Haven't played Cyberpunk, but what people have been saying today after some hands-on with it is that it seems that this is a complete overhaul of like graphically of the systems. Like it is by all accounts salvaging a game that needed several more years in the oven, like we've talked about. And that's cool that, it's not cool that a company, probably some investors forced them to hurry this game along and the game suffered for it pretty dramatically, but it's cool that they stuck with it. They believe in it, obviously. They are not just doing the safe thing, slapping Keanu Reeves in some new easy story content, but they are, trying to figure out what worked and what didn't work about this game. And, in 2026, when we get the definitive edition or the remaster or whatever it is, it's going to be a really fucking cool game. So that's great. People have been happy with it. Before we get to Starfield, is there anything from Ubisoft or Capcom that we want to touch on? I have just some of the highlights written down, but more Skull and Bones, whatever. Chris, have you seen anything about the Assassin's Creed as our resident
Mirage
AC
seems like
fan?
a total like throwback to like OG 2 and
Totally.
the 2 trilogy, honestly.
I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game in like 8 years.
Well, they haven't really been Assassin's Creed games for the last 8 years, so that's understandable. But being that this is the throwback to sort of the roots of the franchise, the Assassin's Creed we got for a decade. So they have Assassin's Creed Nexus, which is the VR. They have AC Jade, which is the mobile game, and then Mirage, obviously, being the next mainline game that's coming out. And that also got a date before today. The date's been out for a little while, right?
October 12th.
Yeah, so we talked Outlaws. Capcom today, new Ace Attorney game. That was not a remaster, correct? That's a brand new game?
Wait, what the
No,
fuck?
it's a remaster trilogy.
Wait, of what?
Okay, the remastered trilogy.
Apollo.
Yo, I can stop playing these fucking games on my phone and wait until they come to Switch.
Yeah,
Yes.
like what Dual Destinies and Apollo Justice.
Yeah,
all
Apollo
the-
Justice,
the
Dual
3 Apollo
Destinies, and
games.
Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice. Yeah, I haven't done Spirit of Justice yet. I did like part of the first chapter on my phone. I did all of Dual Destinies on my phone, or vice versa, whichever
Dude,
one is
it's
the middle.
so weird how these games sell so well. Like the remakes, like over 1 million sellers. Like it does not seem like the visual novel, freaking attorney game would be the games that break 1 million. But this freaking Mega Man Battle Network also broke 1 million really quickly. It's like,
Damn,
man, people
really?
are hungry for these weird niche games. Yeah, for sure.
Well, at some point, it's just there's so many consoles out there. Anything's gonna sell decently if the marketing cycle's okay.
This is great.
You know?
I'll be able to own all 8 of these games on my Switch. That's fucking fantastic. I didn't see anything from Capcom. I've been at work all day. I got on the bus. I read on the bus. So I was reading my Brandon Sanderson, and got home and jumped on this. So I have no idea what they talked about at Capcom or Ubisoft.
Oh, there was a gameplay deep dive. EJ, I'll watch that later.
On what?
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh yeah, I like I said, I was skipping through it right before we recorded. So,
But yeah, besides that, Chris, because you haven't played this game before, but there's also a Ghost Trick demo that is available right now.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
And then a mobile game that's coming to mobile games again.
yeah, the Mega
An offline
Man
version of the online game. Yeah. Which the music and the art for Dive is actually like really tight, but
It is.
man, it's such a bummer that it's like just a mobile game.
Yeah, so
what is the Mega Man thing from today? I was told there was Mega Man.
it's the thing.
Oh, well, yeah, it's the thing I just talked about. So Mega Man X Dive was a mobile game that came out not last year,
Oh, they're
2 years
bringing
ago.
that to consoles?
No. So they're shutting it down, but they're making an offline version that is still on phones. That's
Oh,
all.
that sucks.
So, whatever. And they showed some gameplay, and like the gameplay didn't seem like it'd be very exciting to play on a console anyway, because it's so slow and like has to be for a phone. Whatever. The music's ripping. I love the music in that game, but sadly, it's not a game. It's a mobile game.
yeah.
Damn, that's really depressing. I thought I was getting some Mega Man news.
No, I wish.
All right, Starfield, the highlight of the weekend, showed us a lot of this game, and it looked pretty impressive. I don't even know where to begin here, other than y'all were making jokes in the group chat about what it looked like, comparing it to No Man's Sky, which obviously been talking about for ages. But yeah, I don't know. Chris, you texted me and said that you're seriously considering that new terabyte Series S that they announced just for this game. Thankfully, I have a PC, so this will be a Game Pass day one, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it runs on PC to some degree, and whatever doesn't work, the modding community will quickly figure out.
No, I am. I knew this was going to happen when they actually gave us like a really good look at what this game looked like, that I was going to be like, this is a certified fucking hood classic from Bethesda. I'm going to need it. It looks great. Like, oh my God, they clearly brought people in to work on the gunplay, because the gunplay looks unbelievable. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But the bottom line is like, yes, I'm considering a machine specifically for which to play this game, but I have to get serious with myself a little bit and be like, do I really, really want to buy a console for one game? Especially because of the principle of Microsoft just vacuuming up studios to try to get people to do exactly what I am now considering doing, and I feel gross about that.
So that's a weird thing. We want people to make good games, but they need to like acquire studios to enable these people to make games uninhibited.
Microsoft didn't need to make this game. Like they could have made money.
Nobody needs to make any games.
Well, I'm saying Microsoft specifically did not need to buy Bethesda to make this game. Like, they could have carried it on Xbox and made plenty of money and cut a deal for Game Pass, day and date, and made money on subs that way. But I just, I don't know. God, I want to play this game, but I don't know if I want to play it that badly, but it looks really fucking good. I don't know.
The entire hour-long or whatever showcase was basically a step-by-step introduction to what a Bethesda game is for people who apparently don't know. But there was a couple of standout things. The biggest questions I have about it, and I have had about it, and this didn't really answer those questions, is how immersive is this world going to be, given that so much of it will be procedurally generated? And, 1,000 planets to explore. How much is there really going to be to explore? It's like, you land on a planet, but you're just mining the same 3 resources, doing the No Man's Sky thing. Then you leave after 10 minutes. There's not really anything to do there. I'm still concerned about that, but I don't know. Chris, what did you think about this?
Well, just with regards to, like, we joke about, I said No Man's Starfield, and the Nick immediately one-upped me with like No Man's Skyrim has literally been sitting there and you fucked it up. And I did. I fucked it up.
So good. It's so good.
The base building, the outpost building thing specifically, I was like, this is some No Man's Sky as No Man's Sky shit, like right from the Atlas update. And I was like, I'm super glad they stole that, because it was a great feature. No Man's has way more to do than you think. I don't want to call them like radiant quests because a lot of those in Skyrim were just like, go get my helm for me from this cave you've already explored twice. But there are a lot of distinct people to talk to. You could learn like language fragments from different species, which would help you communicate with them in the future. They were like big towers and shit. Like there was stuff to do, and they all had distinct flora and fauna, all of which they could be scanned. You know, I love scanning shit as you tool around the spaceship. And then, yes, ultimately you're looking for like some very specific resources. You need to make fuel. You need to get specific kinds that like sell really well if you're trying to save up for like a bigger ship or whatever. I would imagine that by way of Bethesda, there's got to be some kind of like a procedurally generated quest system where there are things to do that will lead you to a lot of the like major features on the planet. Otherwise, yeah, it will feel really big and it will feel really empty. So like, is this going to be Breath of the Wild, or is this going to be Tears of the Kingdom? Is this galaxy going to be lived in, or is it going to be you can gain some joy of discovery from what's there, but largely it's the experience of isolation? I don't know.
I think to be successful, they have to do both. Like there has to be planets that are, and they've already said like, yeah, there's gonna be planets that are empty, and there'll be planets that are habitated. Habitated? Is that even a word? They're
inhabited.
Inhabitated. Sorry, I had a little stroke there.
I think you're inebriated.
Inebriated. I think the thing that I walked away from this showcase was, hey, they made the shooting look good.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that Bethesda's never done well. So congrats. Like that's really the only thing I would have asked for were I interested in this game whatsoever. But good for y'all. Get a game that plays well, maybe.
People underestimate like how important good gunplay is. You think Destiny would have the legs it had right now?
We don't underestimate it because we know.
The gunplay is the only thing that carries that fucking bloated abomination of a game, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, Bethesda they haven't made shooters before. Fallout is not a shooter. Just because you have a gun doesn't mean that it's a shooter, but this seems like it's actually a shooter. So like that seems like if they're going to lean into it, they should make it good. And it looks good. It looks great.
Yeah, they showed a lot from the character creator, and they're kind of doing the kind of a hybrid of a classic sort of Bethesda system mixed with a little bit of the Mass Effect sort of like choose your background, and that'll impact sort of how your build starts.
Can we just please just say that the beards look so awful? Why do video game beards have to look so bad? They don't have to. They don't have to. We have the technology.
Do we?
It's the current year.
Name a game that does hair well.
Dude, Guybrush Threepwood's hair and his beard in that Sea of Thieves update video look nice.
It looked absurdly cartoonish. Like
yes, I'm just saying, make it look like hair.
It looked like one solid piece of
but
hair
make
flesh.
It look like the same kind of hair that's on top of the head, but below. Don't make it look like you just glued little hair pieces.
But that's not what beards.
Onto the
that's
chin.
not what beards look like. Look at the difference in the texture between the hair on my head and the hair on my chin. Like,
and look at the Bethesda, what they showed as beards. It looks horrendous. It's the worst looking thing I've seen in a long time.
I agree. It looks bad.
We can do better, and we should expect better.
this is your hill to die on. Digital beards. I respect it.
This is my one hill. Let me have it.
Chris, is there any other systems that you saw that stuck out to you that you were like, wow, that's impressive?
Well, I got in like mid base building and watched the gunplay, and that's all I got. But the gunplay looked fucking great. And I know there was a rumor they brought in the id Software guys to work on the gunplay, and I don't know if that'll be confirmed, but it
they already denied that. They said that they did some consulting, but that they had id help with like textures and stuff.
Well, whatever they did, I don't give a shit. It looks great. The customization options, the way that the crafting works, to really get a build that feels good for you. Even in like Mass Effect, like the guns always felt like Halo guns, basically, where it's like you kind of just cycle through whatever's available, and they all kind of feel a little bit different, but they all basically do the same thing. And this feels like an honest to God, like the gun is the weapon and that is what matters American RPG, which I've never experienced something that does that well. Destiny kind of, but it's not an American RPG, it's an MMO, you know what I mean? So it's a whole different set of like customization system and drops and what is Zir gonna have this week and shit like that. No, I mean, it looks thrilling. Like the combat looks really, really interesting. It's so extra that your guns will like recoil you in 0G, but I love that. Like, I can't wait to see the shit that people do with like flipping themselves over and upside down and just doming people like in 360-degree space. Like, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of clips from that guy on Twitter that does all the cool slow motion action combat clips. I think it's Sunny Legend. Good follow. Yeah, especially with the low no grav with the ballistic weapon specifically that actually gives you propulsion backwards.
I haven't played Fallout, so I don't know if what the companion system looks like in that game, if they even have one. I'm not sure.
Yes.
So is it just like single companion the way that like an Elder Scrolls is, where you just have like one person following at any given time?
Pretty sure, yeah. I've only watched people play Fallout, but that's been the vibe that I've gotten.
So this, you're sort of putting together your fucking motley crew in this game.
Right, and like you assign them to your outposts to give a buff like +5 to mining or whatever.
Right,
Very,
right.
RPG, like classic RPG kind of vibes.
I hope they don't lean too far into the mining thing. I think I'm a little bit tired of sort of the post No Man's Sky. Like, I'm just like, go scan the wildlife. And like, I played Starlink, Battle Flatless. Like I did all that too. It's just, I'm a little over it. So I hope that is more like optional content than mission critical.
I think it will be.
But Chris, you said it, like, is this going to be, Breath of the Wild versus Tears of the Kingdom? And how is this whole thing going to come together? And in a world that touts itself as being so expansive, how is that going to, like, where is the cohesion going to come from? And even in Zelda, there are moments I'll be doing something for a long, an 8 or 10 hour stretch. I'm playing a totally different game right now. Like, I need to get back on track here. And the bigger a game is, the less focus it has. And I think that can be a little obnoxious for me personally. I don't need bigger games. I want more focused games. That's me. I don't know.
What are you talking about? I'm playing a completely different game. Like, that is the game. Like, the things that are in the game are the game. And that's what's beautiful about something that is as large as Tears of the Kingdom, is that everything you do is you're playing the game. Like, I could get lost in the depths for literally days at a time and absolutely love every second that I'm down there and want to like clear out every little encampment to get more zonite so I can increase my battery, and like finding like gloomed out versions of the bosses and trying to like test myself fighting a silver gloom Lionel with armor on, and finding repeat bosses in the depths. I'm like, damn, this is cool. Is this the game? If you're just trying to beat the game, no, sure, I guess, but like that is the game. I think the big question is like, is the content in all of these worlds going to be bespoke, or is it going to be part of the procedurally generated landscape where you have like 4 different kinds of quests that you do over and over and over again? 4 is a little like pejorative. It's probably not going to be 4, but at a certain amount of time, I'm sure we're going to go, oh, this is all of the stuff that they do in these quests, in these worlds. Oh no, I see the hamster wheel. But how long is it going to take? It just has to
be fun. There's 100 different dudes holding signs all around Hyrule. You don't have to do all of them, but just do the ones that, if it tickles your fancy, you run by that guy, you're like, I'm going to help them hold that sign up. That's the fun. If Starfield has stuff like that, if it has little fun distractions that are like micro quests that build up to a macro quest, like it's good to have the variety. And I think Bethesda is competent enough to be able to pull that off, but whether or not it like holds the attention for like a grand sweeping epic is maybe a different ask. It seems like, yeah, I don't know how many planets are in this game, but like, did it need to have that many planets? Like, would the game be worse if there was less? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of with you, EJ. I do like a more focused game generally, but there are these creating games like Breath of the Wild was, or like Tears of the Kingdom is, that are like, I could play them for countless number of hours, but I do still really value the smaller, 10 to 15 hour experiences. So I don't know if Bethesda is ever going to do something like that though. Like, can you imagine the guys who brought you Fallout and Skyrim and Starfield doing a like 10 to 15 hour. What would it be? What would they even make? What would you want from them?
It's just funny. Like Skyrim is just downright paltry compared to what, GTA 5 and Witcher 3 and the Zelda games and Horizon. I mean, all these, they just get bigger and bigger, and it's just, and even in the Starfield Direct, what Todd Howard does the, you see that moon over there? You can actually go to that moon, and it's sort of the Skyrim bit. Like, okay, fun. Like, does it need to get bigger every time? I don't know. But it looks very polished, which of course they're not going to show you some broken down piece of shit.
And no delays. I was bracing because my league.
Well, not another delay at least.
My league hopes are on life support, and I was like, I need this game to come out this year, and I need it to be really fucking good, and it looks really fucking good. And it didn't get delayed again, and I don't think it's going to get delayed again at this point. We're too close.
There were
I think you're safe.
A lot of jokes online this week about the QA team. This is such a massive game and yada yada. And, I'm thinking like, guys, I mean, it would be a bloody goddamn shock if the company and the game that comes in and breaks this curse that we have been living through with games launching, half baked and broken and, buggy and glitchy. Like if it's Bethesda with Starfield, I'll eat a fucking shoe. 2 shoes right next to my fucking crime boss Rockay City shoe. I'll eat the fucking Starfield shoe. We'll be feasting. But goddamn, I mean, people have expectations now. Not that they didn't before, but now this is like people are expecting a lot. And if this launches like fucking Cyberpunk, that is going to. I don't know what it's going to do. People are already crying and complaining about 30 frames per second and whatever. Like
that was to be expected. Both the frame rate and the reaction.
The frame rate thing, there is a conversation there. It's ridiculous that is games. Why is this still the target? But the game looks a lot better than when they last showed it. I don't know if you saw any of the screenshots comparing them side by side, but I'm like, wow, this game had a glow up, which usually it's the opposite. Anything else? Anything that you Nick that you want to touch on before we bounce out of here?
I mean, it's cool to get all these showcases, and it seems like they've been pretty good mostly. It's still a bummer not to have a Nintendo thing imminent or known about. I mean, they still could, whatever, but I would like to know what's happening on my Switch the second half of this year. Like, I already pre-ordered Pikmin. I'm gonna be playing that game. It's gonna be great. Looking forward to it. But beyond that, what have I got?
September, man. It's probably not coming until September. I think they just do.
What are they doing for the
It's
next
like
3
2
months?
months of quiet after Pikmin, though. That's
No, I know. It just feels right. They didn't
maybe
do
some
a
Twitter drops.
they
to
didn't
hold
do
us
a
over.
summer thing last year, so I don't know why we expect one this year.
No, there was no summer thing last year for. I don't know, what did they put out last year? I forget. What's the year?
I don't know, but they did not have a like June or July or August, I think, even direct.
Maybe like a partner one, but anyway, that's just my takeaway. Like, yeah, cool. Games are happening. Still want Nintendo though. Never satisfied. Always hungry.
It's gotta be a new console. There is like nothing. There is like nothing on the release calendar after July at all. That's wild.
Pokemon DLC and that's it.
We're winding down, man. Switch Pro, imminent.
Wind Waker HD, never happening.
I thought about that last night again. Man, with all the Zelda hype right now, like they could put that out for a holiday release.
They're saving it for the Zelda movie. We could talk about that.
Oh my God, we're 2 hours in.
No,
We're 2 hours in. We can do Zelda movie and N64 discussion and whatever else
Our
next
fan
week.
casting.
Oh my gosh, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Danny DeVito's Ganondorf.
I started slashing. All right, well, that's fucking 2 hours of goddamn games. It's been a long couple of days. Is it over? Hopefully. Wake me up when Nintendo has something to say.
I think there's supposed to be there's something tomorrow. I think there's like extended not hands-on, but you know what I mean, like extended gameplay stuff from Xbox tomorrow, and then I don't know what else.
Is Squeenix doing a dedicated show?
I mean, what would they? I mean, they could, but what would it be? It would just be like the same trailers for 16 and 7 and Foam Stars, and that's it. You know.
Well, Tactics Remaster, remaster has been swirling for a long time.
That's something that they'll announce like a month before it comes out, and that's like not till later. my
9
vibe.
remake, 10 remake. Like there's like tons of smoke coming out of Squeenix, like rumor wise, that they could just be like, hey, guess what's coming next year? Because they just are. They're rolling into a heater right now, and I feel like they should strike while the anvil's hot and give us some more news.
Well, guys, the Denver Nuggets are your 2023 NBA champions.
Yeah, Jimmy had a little 8-0 run in that fourth quarter and brought them back from the brink, and then they just could not hit a shot in the last like minute and a half. He had coughed the ball up down 1.
It was a very close game, but I'm glad that I wasn't sitting here invested in it, screaming on Discord with a bunch of other depressed idiots, because going through all that stress just to lose in the end on a Jimmy turnover, my blood pressure right now. So, anyway.
You're welcome, EJ. I did this for you.
Yeah.
Console Crusade Podcast. Catch us next week.